Don't know why it's saying that. All right, so yesterday we introduced Python, and we also talked about the variables. And yeah, I think we had a very serious discussion on the variables. So today I want us to talk about the conditional statements and also the loops. The loops. And then from tomorrow, we shall begin on data types. We shall talk more about the data types in details, including the list, tuples, assets, dictionary, and so forth. So today it is conditional statements on statements and loops in Python. So we are going to talk about the conditional statements, and later, after it, we shall talk about the loops. So first of all, has anyone? I think most of you have worked with the conditional statements. I think these things were taught on in high school and also perhaps in primary, where you say, like, for example, let A be, or let boys be something, be, for example, be 10, then girls to be something, and then I say if boys is something, what about something, like that. So those conditional, like such stuff. So the same applies with, like in Python. Like, for example, let's say you want to execute a set of statement, a set of instruction when the condition is true, or execute a different set of instruction when the condition is false. When the condition is false, I think we have new people here. We have the I have the recordings. We have the recordings. Ensure that you are on the LMS. First of all, can you guys access that LMS? Can you confirm with me those who can access it? You can just raise your hand or something to confirm, or maybe type there in the chat if you. Okay, I can see Daniel. Any other person? Like on that website, you can access the content. Remember, you need to access it because I'll be posting the assignment, weekly assignments there, and that the tests and materials. So make sure that you are there. Make sure you are there. Or let me ask, how many have not accessed that LMS? Those that have not accessed it, you can notify me. So the chat, I see Vincent. Any other person who cannot access it? Na wengine wanasikiza kweli. Let me ask one by one so that I see we have MS. MS, can you access the LMS? MS. Maimuna, can you access it? Let me see if
No.
I can. Okay, now let me try. Then take. So ensure that you go to this website. Name take. I'll share the links once again. And then So this is the website, and then you ensure that first of all you enroll for you to be able to access the content. It's a lot of process now. I think I'll show you later, perhaps at the end of the session. So ensure that you enroll. First of all, you sign up. Then you send me your emails for those who have not access, so that I can give you access to the course. So I'll be posting those materials there, and then at the end of the week, we will be having those weekly tests. Those weekly tests, they usually help, like to understand like how these questions are being tested, and perhaps when you practice more, you will get familiarized with the codes and the coding. So I'll be posting those tests there and other materials. Some things I won't be teaching here, but I'll be providing materials so that you can learn on your own sometimes or anything. So make sure that you are there. So we were talking about the conditional statements, and basically in Python we have the else, if, elif, and we have the else. We are going to talk about this stuff. Like for example, let's say if you say like let's have a variable here, because we talked about the variables yesterday in details. For example, let's say a is 10, then a b is 20. So when we say print, we know that the print statement is a function, or a print function is a function used to get an output, like to get an output here at the console, at the terminal here. So when you say, for example, b equals to a, remember when you use this single equal operator, you are not equating. You are not equating. You are assigning this value 10 to a, to variable a, and then at this one we are assigning this value 20 to the variable B. So this is an assignment. So if you want to equate, then you have to use two equal operators. Equal operator. We'll talk about the operators later, perhaps from tomorrow. But for example, if you want to say like A equals to B equals to A, then this statement is wrong, because A is 10, B is 20. So the output is going to be false. And then, for example, if I turn here and change it to 20, then it's going to give me a true value, a true statement. So these are the default statements in Python, like the basics one, like for mathematics. Mathematics, those that we did in high school. Like for example, we are trying to equate if two values are the same, or something, or if they are not equal, you use the exclamation then equal operator to show that it's not equal. So this statement here is going to be false. It's going to be false because we know that A and B, they are both equal. When you use the exclamation, it means that you're opposing. You're saying that it's not equal. Or sometimes you want to use a comparison. You want to compare, like if it's greater than, we use this symbol for greater than. When you say B is greater than A, then that statement is going to be false. And then when you change the symbol to be less than, then it will be true. So these are the Boolean values in Python. We shall talk about those data types later tomorrow. So we have these default values, like less than or equal to. You can as well. So when you use less than or equal to, then it will give you true, because it's going to check first of all if it's either less than, and then at the same time it's going to check if it's equal to. Then you get true. And if you, for example, do the greater than, again, it's going to be true, because we have values which are equal, because this symbol it means for greater than or equal. So it's going to check first if it's greater than, also it's going to check if it's equal to. So these are the basic logical condition from the mathematics. But now we want to talk about the if statements in Python now, like to do something. And this concept is very, very important because it applies almost everywhere. I know sometimes you are trying to create an account somewhere, then you realize that when you add an incorrect password, you will get some notification, perhaps your password is wrong, or your the credentials are not true. So you'll get like a response in the event like the condition is not true, and in the event like things are working fine, then it will proceed and, for example, if it's a website, you'll be able to sign in. So these things usually apply everywhere in this statement. So it's very, very important to master. So I have these two variables here that I'm going to use. So basically, in the in the conditional statement, we usually use it is initiated with the if keyword. You just say if. Sorry, if for example, if so now instead of using it inside the parentheses, we'll say, for example, if a equals to b, and then after the if statement, you ensure that you add in a colon there at the end. You add in a colon there at the end, and then after the if statement, you need to have the indentation block. Indentation is the space that you have between the edge of your editor and where you write your first character here. So this is that space. This space here is what we call the indentation space, or a white space. This space here, this space is the indentation. So Python is sensitive to this indentation. Remember, when you're using the if, we shall talk about also the functions later, the classes and methods later. All these things, when you're using them, you need to have the indentation block. Like anything that falls inside this if statement must be within this indentation block. This block in this indentation block. And so here we are saying that if A equals to B, we can do something, anything. We can say, we can use a print statement and say, for example, remember string must be written inside the quotes. We shall talk about the data types in details, but this is just an overview of what we will be doing. We'll talk about the strings later in details, the numbers in details, and so forth. So here I can say, for example, if A equals to B, I can say A is equal to B. So this condition, this if statement is going to check like the positive. Remember, we have true and false. So it's going to check two conditions, true and false. So the if statement is going to check the true part of the statement. So if this statement is true, then it's going to execute this program here. This statement here is going to get an output. Like in the event the statement is true, like in the event A is 20, like in the event A and B are both equal, then this statement is going to be executed. So let's try. You can see now I'm getting now here an output that A is equals to B, because truly A is 10, 20, B is 20. So they are both equal. But if I try to change here to 10, then I will not get here an output. I will not get here anything here, because this statement is not correct. By default, if it wasn't correct, it could have returned what false. But now, because we are using the conditional statement, it's either we implement like the else logic, like in the event it's not true, then it should now be caught up by the else statement. Or you can as well implement another condition called elif. Now, the elif condition, before that, I talked about the indentation block. Let me try to remove this indentation block so that you see we will get an error. You can see now I'm getting this error that expected an indented block after if statement on line 4. So Python is not like other languages like a JavaScript, which is not sensitive to indentation. So here you need to have the indentation, or maybe the space after this if statement. It can be either a single space. It will still work. It will still work. Let me first of all change. It will still work. If you add here 2, it will still work. It will still work. If you add in 3, it will still work. 4, it will still work. So they usually recommend 4 spaces or tab. Remember, one is not you not get an error when you're using one space, but when you read the Python exceptional proposal, they propose that you use 4 spaces. So when you click tab, it's going to create for you 4 spaces, or you just click your space bar 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it's going to create for you those 4 spaces. 4 spaces, but most editors, like this Jupyter Notebook, when you just click here at the end of this colon, when you just hit enter, then it's going to automatically create for you those spaces, so you will not need to create the indentation block. So it is sensitive to the indentation. Now, we also have another condition like called elif. So elif, again, is going to check the true part of the statement in the event the first condition wasn't met. So like in this case, we are seeing that when I say 20, when I say A equals to B, remember now we are using two equal operator to show that we are equating. For comparison, we are using this comparison operator equal to check if A and B are about equal, like they all have the same values. So we know A has 20, B has 10. So this statement, of course, is not going to be true. So this statement is not going to be executed because it is not true. So if it's not true, you might want to implement another condition to check another thing. And remember when now you're using another condition like an elif. Now elif keyword or a elif condition is similar to the if condition, but now this one will follow after this if statement. Remember both of them are going to check if the statement are true. Remember on the Boolean values, we have either true or false or a positive or negative. Like we have the binary option, either true or false or negative, positive. Like we have like binary options. So it's either true or false. So this one is going to check the true part of the statement. And this elif is going to also check the true part of the statement if the first statement it wasn't caught up, like like in this case, you can see it's not true. Then you might also want to implement another condition. Remember, if you only have two, you are checking on the two variables or maybe two things, then you do not necessarily need to have an else statement. You can use an else. Okay, let me show you that. You can use an else statement instead. Sorry, else. So when I say else, if A is equal to B, like if A equals to B, then we're going to print A is equals to B. But now in the event it's not equal to B, then we can say print um, print A is not equal to B. It's not equal to B. And then someone will ask you, what is it? Like you can see this one, for example, this statement, if it's not caught up, you can see now I'm going to get this not equal to B. Even if I use the greater than symbol, it's going to capture this one, the else statement. Sorry. Because these are true statement. That's why we are getting the positive side. When I say A is greater than B, then it's going to print out this one because that's true. A is 20, B is 10. That's why I'm getting this equal. I should have changed here the statement, but I was to use the equal operator first. Equal operator. So you can see when I use 2020, I'll get the first statement. But if I reduce, for example, I want to be less, then I'm going to capture the first one. So basically, the else statement is going to capture anything which is not correct, which is not true. Then it's going to automatically fall in the false part. But in most cases, you'll want to be more detailed. Like for example, if it's not equal, you can use a statement like
Excuse me, I hope it is not BE.
pardon?
I hope it is not BE.
Oh yeah,
Something
sorry,
like that.
sorry. Sorry. Sometimes when I talk and I write, I usually do my things. But once I have an active class, then it's going to be nice, because you'll watch what I'm writing. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for the correction. Yeah. So this is now correct. So I said that sometimes you might want to be more descriptive, or it should capture all cases. Like in the event it is equal, or a less than, or a greater than. So you might want to capture all those three options that are available. So remember, else is going to capture anything be it greater than or else or less than. Anything which is not equal is going to be captured. So if you want to capture all the cases so that you may execute a different statement depending on the cases, then you can use an else set an elif. Let me capture. Let me create here a new cell. So here now, instead of using an else statement, you can use elif. I told you earlier that elif statement again is going to check also on the true part of the statement. Remember, we only have binary option, two options, either true or false. So this one is also going to check on the true part of the statement. So you can say if elif a is greater than b is greater than b, then I remember whenever you're using this elif as well, you need to add in the colon there at the end. But you can realize that whenever I'm using these other conditions, it's going to begin in a new line. Like for example, if and then a elif or a else, they're going to begin in a new line. But now the statement that you want to execute on a different condition, or maybe in an if or a elif, now they're the one that you need to have the indentation block. But now the elif itself, it should begin in a new line, like at the start. So here we are trying to say elif a is else if, like first of all, we are trying to say if a equals to b, then we are going to print a is equal to b. But also else it means that if this condition is not true, then else if a is greater than b, then you can print something. You can execute. You can say like, for example, a is greater greater than b. So this statement is going to capture in the event like a is greater than b. So at the moment, let me try to increase to 100 something so that a may be b may be. So you can see now when a is more than is greater than b, then this statement is going to be captured. This statement is going to be captured like a is greater than b, and then if they make them equal, okay, let me make it this one also 100. So when I make this one to be equal, then the first statement is going to be captured. You can see it's now capturing a is equal to b because this condition is met. A is equal to b because I can see a is 100, b is 100. So this condition is going to be met. A is equals to b. So I'm going to get the output as a is equal to b. And then if I increase a, so now you can see now a is greater than b. This case, so this statement is not going to be met because that's false. So when it's false, then it's going to check another condition. Now we are going to the next condition, of which we are saying L if a is greater than b. So this statement is going to be captured. So now you can see that now we are capturing the second condition, that a is greater than b because a is 1,000, b is 100. Now let's try to increase. Let me reduce a and then increase b to be 1,000. So you will see that neither of these two conditions will be captured. So now you can say I cannot get any output, because first of all, this first statement is going to check in there if they are equal, like a equals to b. That's not true because a is not equal to b. A is 100, b is 1,000. Then the second condition that is going to check, like else if. This is elif. Elif is like a shorthand for else if. Like in the event it's not caught up here, then we are going to check another condition. Like we are saying a is greater than b. So where it's going to check a is 100, then a b is 1,000. So does this so you can realize that a is less than b. So this statement is not true because we know that a is 100, then b is 1,000. So this statement a is greater than b, this should be wrong. So when it is wrong, then this one is not going to be executed because we know that the if and also the if, they are only going to check in the event like the statement is true. In the event the statement is true, that's when it's going to be captured. Now So you might also want to introduce something so that you can capture all cases. Like in the event here, we have captured the case where it is equal. Also here when it is greater than. Now we might also want to implement another one in the event it is less than. So you can continue to use the elif until all conditions are met. But if you have three options, like at the moment we only have three options, we have equal, greater than, and the less than. So we have only three choices. So it means that at the last choice you can use the else. Remember when you use elif, it will still work. Let me copy. Let me copy. Then again, let me say in the event that it is less than. So I'm using this symbol for less than, and then here I'm going to say it's going to be less than b. So here is going to capture all cases. So first of all, let me try to run. You can see now I'm getting now a is less than b. So it's capturing this condition with the elif. But in most cases, if you only have three options, you can use the first of all the first. Remember the first that begins an if statement is going to check the true part. If it's not met, then you can as well check another condition. You are going to check the true part of that condition, but with a different logic here. And then in the event like both these statements are not met, then you can introduce an else. So else is going to capture anything which is not true. So for the else, you don't need to add in like any things like this. You can just say else. So automatically you're going to capture um, the else, like anything which is not true, is going to be captured. It's going to be captured as is a false statement. So it's going to capture anything which is like in the event the first condition is going to check first if it's equal. If it's not equal, then again it's going to check on if it's greater than. If it's not greater than, it means that these conditions are not going to work because they are not met. So if they are not met, now the else is going to capture anything which wasn't met in this previous condition. So now we will get A is less than B. Guys, have you understood?
Yes. It's flowing.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you so much for the confirmation. Now, so another thing, remember this one we've just used in the event like we have three options. Remember, if you have several options, you can use the elif as many elif as you want. And then if like all the condition that you were checking has been has been found, or maybe they are not caught, then you can now introduce an else. Remember now the number of elif can be as many as you want. But remember if should be one, and also else should be one. Like a else should be now in the event like a kila kitu kimekataa, then you can use the else statement. But now the elif, you can add in as many as you want if you want to check different cases. Okay, let's try to be somehow descriptive. Let me say, let me say, let's try to use a string. Like, let me say, country. Country. Oh, but there's something that I should have. Okay, I'll teach you later. So let me use a variable here called a country. Country. Then, for example, okay, let me say country one. And by the way, someone can remind me which naming convention am I using here in this case? We talked about the variables yesterday.
Snake.
Yeah.
The variable.
Yes. Yeah, that is snake case. Snake case naming convention for this. So I'm using the snake case. So you separate things with an underscore. Sometimes people call it underscore case, but in Python they usually call it snake case. Snake case. So for example, country one, we can say, let's say use Kenya, Kenya, and country two. I don't know if I will tell you this, it will be complete. Country. That's called two. Then use Uganda. Uganda, let me duplicate so that. So now I have several variables here. I have Tanzania. Then another country is there's a country that I think you guys. I don't know if you know it. It is so hidden. I don't know if it is the name Eritrea. I don't know if you have ever heard of that country. Eritrea. Even I don't know the spell. Let me search the Google. Eritrea. Eritrea country. Kuna mtu ashaisikia nini? Hii country inajiita Eritrea.
Uh,
Eritrea.
yes, yes.
It's not that popular. Yeah. So yeah. So now we have three options here. So I want to. Okay. I'm gonna. Okay. First of all, let me want to use something that will make sense. All right. So let me say, if country one, okay, let me just use this option. Let me just copy paste so that it can be easier. So here we are using integers. That's why we are trying to equate and stuff. But now if you're using string, basically you can use the assignment. You can use equal, but you cannot use things like less than, because now these are strings. So we can say, for example, if country one is Kenya, you can write something like I I come from Kenya. I come from Kenya, and then if country, remember now when you are using equal for what? For comparison, you need to use two equal operator. Remember when you use one, that is assignment. But now if you want to equate, it means that you need to use two equal operator. So if country two is Uganda, then I'm gonna say I think I should have just duplicated this statement, that I hate repeating myself. So I come from Uganda. So now you can see that these cases, like we have four options now. So when I say, for example, else, then it means that it's going to omit other countries. Okay, you can as well implement that one. Like for example, let's say I either come. You can say, for example, I either come from Tanzania, Tanzania or Eritrea. And I can see this sentiment doesn't make sense. Remember, it's going to capture, like, for example, okay. But then the logics that I'm using here.
Variables.
Yes? Um, the name that I wanted to use here doesn't make even sense, because I think, guys, this one will complicate you, because you are beginner, because we were to use something here, because all these statements are true. Okay, let me use that option, like these options. And I think, guys, this one will complicate it. Let me just use that. Let's maintain that one so that we may understand better. But remember this condition, you can check in the event, like if a certain condition is not met, then it's going to capture another condition. So in this case, now here when I say that a country A is Kenya, so basically this condition is going to be true. That's why it's going to execute it. So I could have implemented a logic that's going to check cases like, for example, if country is not uh, is not let me think on something that I can use here that can make.
Okay, I have a
Okay.
suggestion.
Yes.
What if we can set conditions where
Yes.
If we can see Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania is found in East Africa or Central or South Africa.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's fine. But I also think on something. Let me use instead of country one. Let me just say country. I think that will make sense. Country. Then let me say. Now here this is where now I will say, for example, something like a Kenya. But then this one will make more sense. Let me say a Kenya. Then now here instead of country one, I'll say so that something that's going to check on all is country. So that's something that's going uh, to check on all of them. Like in the event the country is Kenya, then it's going to implement this one. It's going to capture this one. Let me see. You can see now it's now capturing this one. So when I say Uganda, then it's going to capture the second one. But now, assuming that you have something like, let me say, yeah, I don't know where I come from. I don't, so that it may make sense. I don't know where I come from, or something like that. Natumia tu vitu random hapo so that you may understand the. So now, you can see now when Uganda is available, then it's going to capture Uganda. But now when I add in something like Tanzania, like this East African country, Tanzania, then it's going to capture the last option here. So you can implement several logics. I don't know where I come from. Okay, let me try to implement another one. Now, when you want to check on several cases, then you can uh, you can uh, you can add in as many as you want. But now you will be using the elif statement so that you can check both cases. So here you can check also Tanzania. For example, if it's Tanzania, and then another one is which other country in the East African? Rwanda, yeah, Rwanda, and another one is Burundi, yeah, Burundi, and also there's another country called Malawi. I don't know if it still exists. So in this case, it's going to capture Tanzania because Tanzania is available. So when I try to check on country, then I'm going to wait. Why is it capturing Uganda? Let me see. I come from Uganda. Mhm.
You had copied the the, the, the statements.
Oh, sorry, sorry. I forgot. Yeah, Tanzania. Then this should be Rwanda. Then Burundi. So, but I believe you understand now how it is applied, the ELIF. Like in the event you want to check like several cases, you can use these options. But there's something that perhaps I wanted to tell you. I think this one won't be complicated for you. Like instead of like hard coding, for example, Tanzania and something, you can use an input field where you can just fill in a form. Then it's going to tell you where you come from. I think I can show you. So instead like saying like country equals to Tanzania hard coded, you can use an input field. You can use an input function. Remember, it's a function, and the function in Python must have the parentheses. Let me remove this one. You just use type an input, and remember for function, it must have the opening and the closing of the parentheses. Then here you can add in something descriptive. Let me say select, or I choose, okay, let me say type, where you come from. And then I remember for strings, if you have used here the double quote at the start, make sure that you also end it at the end, like you end it with it at the end. Then perhaps let's add in a colon here. So this input, instead of like a hard coding the variable, you can use the input so that it can prompt you to add in the country. My code, I think, are too much. You can't see well. Let me reduce. Let me reduce the number of countries so that you can see my screen well. So now when I click on run, I'm going to get here a prompt, or because here I've said type where you come from. So when I say, for example, something like Kenya, then I hit enter, then you can see it's now capturing this statement which is say I come from Kenya because this condition is met. So let me try again with another thing, like let's say Tanzania. We know that Tanzania is not there. So Tanzania, Tanzania. Sorry. When I say Tanzania, then it's going to say I don't know where I come from. Though it doesn't make sense. Guys, have you understood? Uh, is it clear, or the input is confusing you?
Yeah, yeah. Just a little bit of input. What is it? A function or a what?
Basically, the input, like you can see in the previously we were saying, like we are trying to hard code. For example, the country is Tanzania. We are trying to hard code the variables, but now the variables can also be like in the event. I know. Like for example, let's say you are creating a website. You will not be writing like the username from the code. In the code, you'll be having a form where people can fill in. Then it's going to now check in the backend. So you won't be like hard coding like those variables. So you can use the input field, which prompts someone to add in the variable. So the variable here is going to be a country. Then it's going to hold the value from the user. So the input helps you to hold the variables from like the values of the variables from the user, like from the input. So you just use the input instead of using the variable name itself. All right, it's complicated. I will explain later, perhaps, or you can understand if I can try to explain more. Itakuwa confused sana.
Bana, it's okay.
Yeah. So, like in the place of having like we know that variable, I told you earlier, like yesterday, that variables these are containers to store our data values. Now here we are not storing the hard coded value. Like initially we were trying to say Tanzania, Kenya, and then it's going to check on those conditions. But now instead of like hard coding the variables, here we are now trying to get the values from not variable, basically the value of the variables. Instead of like hard coding the values of the variables, we now want to get it from the user. So we are using the input. So it's just a replacement of the hard coded variable, but it's just the same thing, just a value to the variable called country. So instead of like a hard coded value, you are trying to get it from the input field, like from the user. And then this statement I've just added here so that it can make sense. Because if I fail to add in, I'm going to get a blank screen. Like when I try to do this, you can see, someone cannot know what this prompt is asking. So for example, you can just write anything there, but to be more descriptive, you try to write here something that will make someone understand what that field is requesting. So that's why I added like the string in the inside, like a type where you come from. Then I created here space. You can see here at the end there's a white space, so that when they add in a field, like I will create here, we'll see some space. Let me say Kenya, and then you see. So okay, did I use I come from Kenya? Let me see. Uh, 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 okay, let me use some. Yeah. So this is what I was, and then this is the space that I was talking about. So you make sure that at the end, at least you're adding some space so that it cannot be close to one to each other. So that's white space is just to make your statement to be a bit more readable. So this is just a replacement. Instead of like hard coding the value, you can get it from the input. Like when you type here something like a USA, it's not there. Then sorry. Now here you don't click on the run, you click enter. You click enter on your keyboard, you don't click on the run button when you are filling the form. Is that clear? I believe, though we shall learn these things more as we go on, because I will be doing a lot of practicals. So you will understand these things when you try to implement them on your own, or maybe to do them on your own. So now, sometimes you might have a very short statement that you want to use instead of doing what, instead of having all this man of code. Like in the event you only have two conditions that you want to check, or let's say you only have one condition that you want to check, then you can just use a shorthand if. So let me use a different cell. So I can say, for example, I've used a severally. Let me use x, 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 and but I remember I told you it's a good idea to use something descriptive. But for the interest of typing, I'm going to use a b c d, so that but
Excuse
in
me,
the
sir.
word up. Yes, yes,
Uh, in the in the previous work
yes,
that you are doing, there
yes,
was
yes.
the use of variables of if, elif, elif. Could you just choose if just to present maybe for country, or it has different responsibilities?
If
Yeah,
so,
like no, instead of using different, like if, elif, and else, and they are all meaning the same thing, could I just choose if for all of it? I just get the same output.
basically the if condition. Remember this condition, they try to check on something, something like if it's true or false. Let's say you are trying to check on several cases. You want to check if, like for example, let's say you have a website. Then when people sign in, you see most cases it will display there like hello Nehemiah, welcome to this website. People like if a different person, welcome to this website, or maybe John, hello John, welcome to this website. So it's going to be dynamic depending on the people. So you are using these conditions such that it can capture a particular case. So for example, if you are to say like you want to execute everything, like you want to include all the countries here, then it's going to mean that, for example, if you are checking the presence of Kenya, like if this person come from Kenya, then it means that if you want to like include all of them, then it's going to like print out all these cases. Like I come from Kenya, Uganda, Burundi. So you will want like to execute only one condition. Like if they come from Kenya, it's going to strictly return I come from Kenya. If it's Uganda, it's going to strictly return I come from Uganda. So the purpose of these conditions, if statements, they are used in the event like you want to check several cases, or maybe you want to execute a set of instructions in the event the statement is true. If it's not true, then you can use an elif to check if it wasn't true, then try another to check something else. I don't know which example that I can use which is more applicable. I don't know if you've understood what I'm to say.
Oh, yes,
Hello, mwenye alikuwa
I have
ameuliza
understood.
ama ni mimi sijaka? Umeelewa?
Shida ni hapo kwa elif. Elif sijaipata vizuri. Juu umesema kwa if ni kama sasa ina detect nini?
If
Several
it's true.
conditions. If it's true or if it's true. Then the one for elif.
Oh yeah. Let me. I think let me try to explain it more. So we know that the first condition is the main thing that I want to check. Like let's say you come from, let's say you come. Okay, let me just use the same example here. So this first condition, this is the main condition. You are trying to check if someone come from Kenya. if someone come from Kenya, and then if the person doesn't come from Kenya, then you want to check on something else. You want to check on something else. So this elif is an else if, like in the event the first condition is not true, this if it's not from Kenya, then check another condition, check something else, check this condition. Remember also the elif is a these cases, like for example, if it is how can I say? Remember, this condition are going to be executed only once. So the first one we are trying to check if it's correct, if this statement is true. Like for example, if you are checking if the country is Kenya, so it's going to strictly check on this statement. So if this another condition, it will first of all check this one. If this one is wrong, then that's when it's going to check another condition. So you can use the if in the event like I want to check several cases. True. Remember, you are going to check on the several cases, but positive, or maybe the true part of the condition. You are trying to check on the true part of the condition. Now remember else now this apply in the event like everything is like this the last option, like kama kuna kitu anything which is caught up, then this is now the last option and that should be captured. So basically the purpose of elif is going to check if the first condition wasn't met, then it's going to try to check on the second condition. If the second condition wasn't met, it's now going to capture anything which is not caught up here. Umeelewa?
Yeah. Alafu, because I believe that one ni kama ni ya back end, tuseme you
Yes.
have so many list of countries and
Yes.
hauwezi andika zote. How can you write that variable ama sijui ni nini hapo, like you have so many options because you can't just you can list few but you realize that there's no one anatoka in that specific place umeandika, so utafanya aje count manually? Maybe you have a list of so many options.
Now so hii nimekuwa tunajaribu kuelezea like how nini work, but in the real world scenario utakuwa nafanya hivyo. Let me show you a simple way, though nitaelezea baadaye. Let's say you have a country called a variable called a country. You can use a formatted string like let's say okay, let me just use the same variable here. Let me use the same variable. You cannot see my screen?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's okay now.
Yes.
I was okay. Oh, wait. Since when?
Just a few minutes ago.
Oh, I don't know what's happened. Sorry for that. So you can see now.
Yes, okay now.
You can see. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So that case, like in this case, this topic is strictly about the conditional statement. So I was trying to illustrate like a different logics. But if you are to use like this country, like to capture countries, you can use this input still. But now here you can use a formatted string. Let's say print. Now, if you want to use a formatted string, like you can see now at the moment, I cannot add variables inside a string. Like I cannot use a variable inside string. But now there's a condition or maybe some logics that you can use to make you to be able to use like a variables inside a string. Like I can say you can begin with F to show that it's a formatted string, and then your normal string which is defined with the quotes. Then here in the inside, I can say, for example, I come from, then this country is going to be dynamic, it's going to be variable. So you're using it as a variable, use the curly braces, use these curly braces, then you pass in your variables, your variable this way, this way. So here I've used the formatted string. I began with the F, then your normal string. But now the reason I'm using this formatted string, it allows me to use a variable here. So the value here is going to be received from the input. Like let me try to now run. So let's say, where do you come from? Then let me say, for example, United States is going to display. Sorry. I should have used enter, click enter. So you can see now it say I come from the United States. When I say, for example, Qatar, Qatar is going to capture, is going to capture of, sorry, this is the variable country, country, alafu hapo hivi ndio nilikuwa sasa niweke nini, country. Okay, let me first of all say, okay, let me now run. Kuna error ilitokea hapo hivyo because I should have used that variable. So for example, nikisema hapa Qatar, now in the field now nikisema Qatar, ita execute as I come from Qatar. I come from Qatar, so I should click enter. So unaona utaweza tumia this nini, utaweza itakuwa la kwa hadi nini as many countries as you want. Umeona? Like the reason I used this one, they will illustrate like these conditions. But if you want to use something more complicated, like we have several ways on how you can do something. But in this case, I was just trying to like illustrate the if conditions. The if conditions. Is it clear now?
Yes.
I mean, more complicated. Okay, so in the event like I have other option, then you cannot use an F statement. For example, if you just want to use a variable, like in this case, we are just using like some basic variable. We don't have to like implement something more complicated, like a more complicated. Let me show you like the use case. I think I have here an example that I can show you that I use an if. Like nimeelezea tu like in a very basic way. Let me just a second. I have Python code here, I think. Just a second. It seems I don't have a machine. I don't have a good computer, and that's why the performance is. Let me use user. I think user is much better, so that I can show the use case. I think here I have. Let me see. Yeah, you can see like in this case. Okay, let me see under better explanation. I want to use a proper example. So like you can see now the use case of these if conditions, if statements. Like here, for example, you are trying to check, like in this case, if the user is not none, like it means that the user is present. Remember, we shall talk about these operators later, like these logical operators here later. But just to show you like how these things are used, not necessarily for the countries that are used here, but you can use it in a real world scenario to check on something. Like for example, if in this case, if user is not none, which means that the user is present, then it's going to, we are defining here the refresh. We are trying to instantiate the refresh object here. for the user, and then so it's going to like perform all these operation in the event like the user is not none. In the event like the user is none, and then it's going to return here a response that invalid credentials. So like it can be used on different cases, but hii nimekuwa tuna demonstrate with the countries. Umeelewa?
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. So sometimes you might have like just a simple condition that you want to check. You don't want to like to write all these codes. You can just write a condition inside, like just in a single line. Like I say, let's say we have a sorry 10 B to be 20. So if I say here, if you just want to execute it in the same line, you can use, for example, a print statement. Print, for example, for example, A is greater than B than B than B. Okay, let me use it in a different way. Let's say, for example, if A is greater than B, then instead of like using a different line and adding some indentation and all that, you can use it in the same line. You can say print for example, A is greater than B. So here we use the if statement, but now as a shorthand. You're going to use, because in the event like you only want to check one case, then you can use an if statement. You know, like for example, once you've mastered these programming knowledges, so in future you'll want like to write few lines of code, but make sense, like solve a particular problem. You don't want to like write billions lines of code to solve a very basic problem. So like to optimize your code, in this case, you can use a shorthand. Like in the event you only want to check one condition, you can just use an if. So hapo hivi itakuwa umesave a line, another line ya ku add in like the print statement stuff. So you can use it in the same line. So this is what we call the shorthand. So let me change here the operator too. Now this one is going to check only one condition. It can only print in the event like the condition is correct. Though you can as well use another one to check on the else, but now in that case it's going to be, okay, let me use a different cell here. You can as well say print. Okay, I think I should have just copied this statement. Remember, this is the same notebook. Hata nikiandika in a new cell, it will still refer to the code yenye nilikuwa nimeandika huko juu. So you can see now I don't have to repeat the A and B because it is in the same notebook. Even if I use a different cell, it's going to remember A and B that I had written. So here nitasema if print A is greater than B, then hapa nitasema if for example A is greater than B, else print I want to look on something. Okay, let me just say print else print A is less than else than. So umerealize nimetumia a single line of code, but it's going to check on two cases, in the event it greater than and in the event it is less than. So this what we call the shorthand if else. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah, kuna vitu zingine zenye zina apply hapo, but I don't want to talk about it because there are some topics I'll talk about it like at the next stage. To use also the not now can be used to oppose. Like for example, if not If not, it's going to like to check in the event like it's not. If not, it's going to oppose. Like for example, if you are saying that if A is greater than print A is greater than B, if A is greater than B, like if I say not, if I say for example not, then it's going to it's not it's going to mean that you are opposing. So if this statement is correct, like if this statement is correct, then it will oppose it in the return is a negative. So in this case, it's going to capture A is less than, sorry. It's less than. Yeah, it's going now to capture the greater than. So the not is going to oppose. And sometimes you might also want to use like different condition. You want to check on several things at a go. Like let's say in this case you wanted to check on um like you want to check on two cases at the same time, then you can use and in the or. Though I'll talk about these things later. I don't want to like complicate it for beginners because I have another topic that I want to talk about before we end it. But I remember as in Jongelea, I'll talk about it because up next is the operators. We shall talk about the and or greater than, the also the arithmetic operators like the modulus, the and all those. So we shall talk about those stuff in our next lesson. So today I wanted to cover also the loops. Sijui itakuwa complicated. First of all, umeelewa up to this point the that the conditional statements, how it works.
Yes, at least personally I've understood how we use if and when and why. Then the if, elif, and else. At least I've understood something there. So
yeah, that's wonderful. Anyone, any other person was understood? Najua hizo confirmation wanga zinanipatia nguvu. To know that people wanaelewa. Najua it's something to teach and also it's another thing someone to understand. So ukiconfirm umeelewa na feel poa that I've achieved something. So if you keep quiet, it's not good. So you can confirm even if you haven't understood, you can be like the other lady who asked me to repeat or explain so that you make sure that you understand. Utilize your money very well. Utilize your school fees very well so that you may come out with something. All right. So I'll assume that the silence means the rest have understood. Also, I'll provide the recording in case you want to refer back. You can do the same. Now, there's something also we call the loops. Loops in Python. Let me say loops. 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 Should have done it to Markdown. Yeah, so in Python we have two primitive loop commands. We have while loops and we also have the for loop. I think let me type here. Sorry. We have while and for loops. While and for loops. And so basically, let's begin with the while. So just similar, it's somehow similar to the if conditions. So this while loop is going to also execute a set of instruction in the event like the condition is also true whenever you're using the while, and then also it also has the else. But now this one is going to execute also as but now this one you can execute several conditions with the while loops. So for example, let's say we have a variable like one. Sorry, let me use an index. Okay, let me just use I, and then let me initialize. I want to increment something, and then I want to, for example, when I try to increment something when it reaches to a particular value, then it's going to is going to stop or maybe continue or something. So I've initialized here with 1. Then I can say while I, for example, while I is less than perhaps something like a 10, while I is less than 10, and then what can you do? You can print I. You can print I. Now, because we want to increment, basically we shall talk about these operators tomorrow, and you realize that that topic is going to be very, very important. So to increment, you can use now this I, which shows this variable here. Then you're going to increment as it iterates. Remember now this is the while loop. While I is less than 10, then we are going to print I. And once we have printed I, then it's going to increment by whichever value you wish. So you're going to use plus, then equal, which means that you are trying to add, then equate, like you are incrementing. You are trying to add and also get the value of the next thing. So it's going to execute until you meet a particular condition, like in this case, until you meet the event like I is less than 10. So in this case, I can assume to increment with 1. So in this case, I'm going to get here, it's going to increment 1 up to, but there is something that you need to know about Python. Indexing begin from 0. Like a 0 is like index 1, 1 is like index 2, 2 is like index 3. So indexing in Python begin from 0. So it counts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So in this case, remember it's going to capture only if it is less than 10. Remember now it's not capture 10, it's not capturing 10 because our condition here it's saying less than 10, which means that it shouldn't be equal or anything, it should be less than 10. That's when it's going to increment. Is it okay? Are you getting something?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
you realize that. Okay, wonderful, thank you. So this statement again is going to check only if the condition is true, like is met. It's going to loop, basically going to execute a set of statement as long as the condition is true. Remember now this one helps you like to achieve several condition at the same time. Remember like this one, I think this was a else if, elif. Those were were for like a single condition, like a single command. But now with the while loops, you can execute several condition provided the statement is so, like it's somehow similar, but now this one is you can iterate over levels. You can see now I can get like several values here at the end. So here I've initialized here with 0, like to be my base class, so that it can start from 0, like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So if I say 0, then it's going to begin my increment from 0. So you can see now it's going to return from 0. So this is the best case where it's going to begin from. And I remember this one is for iterating. This is for like a while loop is also it is for iterating. So if I fail to increment, then it means that we are going to have here an infinite loop. Like it's going to increment 1, like it's going to loop 1, 1, 1, 1 to infinity until your system will crash. Do you want to see my screen, my laptop crashing? I show you that.
Don't risk.
Let me show you that. I think it won't have, like for example, if I fail to increment, then you'll find out that you'll have 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 to infinity. Okay, let me use 1. So in this case, sorry, you can see now it's going to continue deal forever until 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 Jesus come. So I need to let me stop. So you need to increment whenever you're working with the loops. You need to increment so that you may not have this infinite loop. Wow. let me see. Okay, let me delete the cell. Bado tu iko. Oh yeah. So you need to increment whenever you're working. Now here you need to be very sensitive. Whenever you're working with the loops, the while loops, the loops basically need to be sensitive. For example, if you're incrementing something, you need to make sure, like if you're working with these loops, you want to iterate over a loop, make sure that you increment. So let me add in now that plus, so that once it has iterated the value 0, then here we are incrementing it, like we are increasing with 2. So it's going to go to the next value instead of going 1 1 1. So it's going to go to the next number based on the value that you added here for increment. So it's going to increment until a particular condition is met. So for example, if I decide to increment with 2, so the value is going to begin from 0, but it's going to increment with 2, like a 0, 2, 4, and so forth. Yeah, like that.
Excuse.
Yes, yes.
And what about when you don't want a constant interval? Maybe you want maybe equal 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then after that, I don't know if there is a logic in that, but maybe you don't want a constant interval.
You're breaking. You're breaking. You're saying?
Okay, I'm saying that what about when you are operating with the loops in a way that you don't need a constant interval? Is there a way that you can do it?
A constant, or you mean
Like the way the increment is 2. Maybe
yes,
you don't want it to be 2, or I don't know if the system allows it to be,
yes,
the
like,
interval to break.
for example, here we're initializing
There's a network problem, like, pardon.
go to the next number with, like if you choose to it's going to not even values, but three values, like 0, 3, 6, 9, and so forth. Let me try to increase to 20. Then it's going to go with 3 3. If you choose one, then it's going to go with 1 1 1 2 3 4, and so forth 2, until it reaches the target, like once the condition it is met. So you can just specify. You can use 2, you can use 3, you can use 5. So it's going to execute provided it is within the condition, like the specified condition. I don't know if I've answered your sikukuelewa tena.
Like I was saying, kama tuseme umesema index is equals to 0 while index is equals to is less than 20, which means that until 20 it's going to execute the gap of 5, but you want after that maybe you get a gap of 2, like after 20. I don't know if there is a logic in that, but I'm just trying to think of that. Like you don't need a constant of 5 over interval of 5. There is maybe a certain place you need an interval of maybe 2, and another place you need an interval of 5, or even 3. Is there a place? Is there a way that you can apply that?
Yeah. You can apply that. Like in this while loop, you can as well use those if statement. So you can say like let me try with something else. Like for example, this while loop, this one is going to check only in the event like this condition is true. But in the event like if it's not true, then you can introduce something else. Like you can break, and then I try to increment with another value. Like for example, when you reach to 20, you can decide also to implement something else that's going to I'm trying to look on a better example that I can illustrate with. But also here you can use the else statement. So let me say else. Else. Else here we can say, for example, a better way to explain. Yeah. Okay, what you meant is that, for example, once you are iterating from 0 to 20, then when you reach to 20, you want to do something else, or what were you to do? Sijui mbona sishikanishi poa.
Okay, I was thinking maybe you're trying to have different intervals in a certain
Yes.
sequence. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Basically, you can use the other. No, you cannot use the while loops on that, because now the while is going to check only for the true part of the statement is going to execute, and then also can introduce an else statement to capture the other variable or the other option. But if you want to have several cases, like for different intervals, then you can use now the else, because now this one allows you to set different condition in the event like I want to have several intervals. That's when you can now you can also integrate these use the if statement so that you can execute what a single condition. And then if you just want to use the while loop at that case, if you just want to use it directly, it's going to only check that case. The event it's not met, then the else is going to capture it. But you cannot set directly like a different logics here. But you can implement with the use of the if statements, like so that you can have several cases. But if you just want to use the while loop alone, you cannot uh, you cannot have those other logics, other technology statements, conditional statements. Like to iterate with an interval of 1, you can choose to increase with an interval of 2. Umeelewa?
Nimeelewa, niko sawa. Niko sawa. I'm okay with that.
On a break conditions, then you need to use the conditional statement. Hello?
Yeah, I've understood.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So that was about the if, but sometimes you might also want to, for example, when a particular condition is met, then you can have a break, and then I can skip that option, then you continue with something else. So that way you can. Okay, let me. I think in our case, let me try to use a very simple if condition in this case. So, for example, while I is less than 20, you can say print I is going to print I, but let me say if introduce an if now. So if for example, if I is greater than something like let's say 10 or something, then now here we are using this if statement inside what? Inside the while loop. We're using the if inside the while loop. So basically, this is how you can use. So when for example, when it reaches to when if I equals to 10, you can do something. You can choose to break. You can say break, and then you can increment again. So let me show you something. So you can see now when it reaches, let me increment with 1. So when it reaches to 10, you can see now it breaks. So you can see you can apply several checks or maybe conditions with the if. Like you can use this if to do anything basically, or whatever you wish to use in the while loop. So it's going to execute a particular statement based on the condition that you have given it, and so forth. So like in this case, we have tried to implement such that whenever the I increment reaches to 10, it's going to break the loop, the iteration. Or perhaps you can choose to continue. Like for example, when it reaches to 10, you can choose to skip that option of like for example 10, then it can continue to the next thing. Like for example, if it's 10, then you can say, but now in that case you need to increment first. You need to add in this increment here, and then the print function is going to be there at the end. Otherwise, it won't make sense. So you'll add in now here the increment here at the top, and then so it's going to increment with 1, and then if I is equal to 10, then you can use a continuous statement. Continuous statement, which means that it's going to skip that 10, then it's going to continue with the second thing. Then you can now print. Now remember, when you want to use the print, now it should be in line with the if statement. So I'll say here print. Then now that I index. So you can see now I no longer have 10 here. So I tried to iterate. When it reached on to 10, then it skipped that 10, and then it continue. So basically you can make use of the if statement that by there, that's the reason that we began with it, so that it can be applied like on different like things in Python, like for example in these slopes. Now we can as well use the if inside it, like to check different cases. Si umeelewa hiyo?
Nimeelewa.
All right, great. Now, lastly, I want to talk about the for loop. Then I will release you. Now, the for loop, I think this is what you'll be using mostly. Like, for example, I told you, like, for example, let's say we had like those variables here. Like, let's assume that we have a to my party. Let's say a is 10, b is 20, C is 30, then D is something like a 40. So it means that, for example, if you want to print these values, you have to use the print function, which they should be 4 of them, so that we get the 4 output. So I'll have to say let me add several. So unaona hapa hivi, so if I want to like print out these values zenye zikapo kwa variable like a b c d, all these variable, it means that I have to write print a, print b, print c. But assume that I have something like let's say 100 variables or items that I want to get an output. It means that I'll have to like write all those print statements so that I may get the number of values that you wish. So basically, the iteration usually help you like to execute everything at a single with just a single command. Then you're going to like get the output of everything. So let's try with the list. I'll talk about the data types and also I'll talk about the list later. But let me just use this example numbers. Then let me have a list. A list in Python is defined with a bracket, square bracket. Then here let's try to add in now a number like a 10, 20, 30, 40. And then now, if I want to iterate or maybe get the output of these numbers, it means that I'm going to just use a for loop. Now the for loop again is for iterating over a sequence. A sequence is any iterable object. A sequence is anything like, for example, this list. We shall talk about the tuples. We shall talk about the sets and the dictionaries. So any sequence, anything that carries, we've been talking about the variables, and the variables only carry. We've been talking about the variable that carries only a single value, like a 10, or that like this number, or if it's a string, just a single name. But in the future, we are going to talk about the list, so that you can have a variable that carries many things. Like in this case, we have a single variable that stores several numbers in the inside. We have 10, 20, 30, 40, and you can see these parameters are separated with a comma. So you can realize that this one stores like different items at the same at a single variable. So the for loop can be used only on the iterable object, or a sequence, or anything that is in a sequence, or maybe, or I just put it like anything that is iterable, or maybe something like a list that carries more than one item, like a variable that contains, or maybe an object that carries more than one item. So that's where you can use now the for loop. Also, you can iterate over a string. A string is also an iterable object. I'm going to show you in a few. So, for example, I'll say, for example, for numbers, for example, for x in now numbers, for x in numbers, then when I say print x, then it's going to get the output here. I'm going to explain everything here in a few. So you can see now I'm going to get here an output, and you can see I've used like a few lines of code, assuming that I have around several numbers. Let me have 30 and 40, or whichever, or one, sorry, two. So you can see now I have several, but I've just used the few lines of code in the event like I wanted to execute. So this one can save your time in the event like I want to return many things at a go. So let me tell you what is going to happen here. Remember this for loop I told you earlier, it is used to iterate over the iterable object. In the iterable object, I told you like that these are the sequence, like a sequence, or a variable that carries that carries more than one item. An example is a list, can store more than one item. You can see now here I have several. Also, we have another one called the tuples. We shall talk about it. It can also store more than one value. We also have something like set in the dictionaries. We shall talk about them later when we reach to the data types. So, so the for loop is basically used to iterate. To iterate, it means to go through it. When you just search iteration meaning, it's just to go through an item sequentially, like a one by, like one to the other, like to go through elements one to the other, like it's going to. So when we say like for x in numbers, it means that this x is going to stand for these variables. Like for example, this x is going to stand for the first value, which is going to print out, which is 10 here. But now because we are iterating, and it means that we are going through elements one by one. So when it goes to 20, then at the x will have a variable called 20. So the variable x is going to be 20. Then it's going to go in that hierarchy until it reaches the end. So when it reaches the end, then that's the last variable that you're going to have. So in this case, we are trying to iterate the numbers, but now we are creating the variable which stands for the individual value that we are going to return here. So when you say for x in number, it means that the returned element or a value is going to be represented by x. So when it has returned x, then the next variable is going to be 20. So x is going to be again for 20, and then it's going that hierarchy until it's going to reach the last element. That's when the iteration will stop, or maybe the loop will stop. Umeelewa?
Okay, maybe just one question. So,
Yes.
that X, should it be just X, or you can use any letter, maybe Y, Z, something like that?
Oh, you can use. In fact, let me use something descriptive. You can use anything. This is just a variable. A variable name, provided you follow the rules of variable names. For example, here I can say number. A number. For number in numbers, but it shouldn't be the same for number in a number. So here you have to use numbers. So this one is going to stand for the individual number that's going to be returned. So you can see now I can get like like it's going to iterate. So you can use just anything, anything to represent like an individual value here in the inside.
So
Remember this number stand for the entire object. These numbers stand for, these are variable from the entire object. So if you want to get like a variable to stand for the individual element, that's when you are saying that for numbers to stand for individual numbers in the inside, for number in the entire numbers object. So when you say print, basically the for loop is a function, is a statement that is used to iterate over object. So this for is going to go through your object one with the elements one by another until it reaches the end. Melewa, any question?
Yeah, it's clear. So, and can
Mm.
you, is there a function that we can use or anything that we can use to filter? Maybe we have a list of, like the one you've written there. We
Mm-hmm.
have 10, 20, and maybe you have five sets of 40s. So
Mm-hmm.
can you just, is there a way we can filter? Maybe we only need 40s, or you maybe need only 30s in that list.
Oh yeah. We can do that, but at the moment I just want to basically we have a topic for that, but we have other people who are beginners. I don't want to like make things complicated, but those topic we shall talk about it on how you can sort, on how you can filter, on how you can do anything. But I want to make it very simple at the moment. But as we advance, we'll go to those topics, because once I try
Okay.
to, for example, show you in this class, it might inconvenience someone who is a beginner, like a complete who hasn't understood. So provided you just understand like how the loops work, and then we have another topic where we shall advance, because you realize that these things are going to be used across different sections, like in functions, in methods, in classes, in other things. So we will be using these things as we go on. Also, those data types like the tuples list, we shall be using these things. That's why I chose to begin to teach this one first before the other. But we shall talk about the sorting, the filtering, the for example, how you want to replace something here, you want to delete, or maybe you want to do some conditional rendering or something like that. We shall talk about it. But at the moment, I want you to focus on how the for loop works, how you can use the for loop. Is that okay?
Very much okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question?
Let's say you don't want to give the list, but you want
Mm-hmm.
to, I don't know, maybe a range instead of listing 10, 20, 30, 40, and you have a specific number that you want to reach. Maybe it's 10 to 100 or 10 to 50, and you don't want to list 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Is there a way you can arrange
Oh,
it?
sure. There is. So, like in that case, let me remove this variable. So we have a function for defining the range, and so you just use, remember a function in Python, you have to define it in with the parentheses. So you just say range. There's also a function for that. Just say range, and then I specify the range. So I'm going to explain something here in a few. So let me just use, for example, 20. So in this case, by default, the range function will initialize the iteration from 0 to the last element. But we shall talk about on how you can like specify the initial value and also the value that's going to increment with. So let me run. So you can see now you're able to define a range, and then I iterate over it with the for loop. So there's an option for that to iterate over a range, and you can specify, for example, if you want to specify the starting value, you can see by default it begins from 0, you can specify the starting value. For example, if you choose to be 5, then it's going to begin 5. Remember, you separate parameters with the comma. So the first parameter here, specify the starting point. Then at the second parameter here, specify like the range, like it's going to reach up to which value. So in this case, it's going to begin the iteration from 5. By default, it begins from 0, but you can specify the starting point. And then you realize that it's going to increment with 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so forth. But you can specify also to choose which value is going to increment with. Like if you choose to increment with 2, you can add here, for example, 2, then it's going to increment with 2. So it's going to be 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 14, 17, and so forth. So basically, there's a function to define your range. Is it clear?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. And then also you can as well specify, like the way we did with the while loops. Also on the for loop, you can specify, for example, the stop, not like at the break, and also the condition when certain thing is made. Like you can also integrate also the conditional statement inside the for loop, So anything is possible. Anything is possible. Anything you want, it is achievable. But I'll encourage you, those who are sharp here, so that we have some people who will go. Like I will try to talk about every aspect here. We'll try to talk about every aspect. We shall be creating a lot of algorithms together, and I will understand how these things are being used. So for those who are curious, let's just stick to these are basics, and then later we shall try to remember everything. I'll try to explain everything. Basically, everything that you'll need to know, I'll explain. But at the moment, let's maintain this one. I think I should just end it here, unless you have a question on the topics that I have taught. Remember, there's a lot that I'll talk about as we go on. But at the moment, for beginners, just stick to this one. Don't burden your brains trying to master a lot of concept. But it's a good thing to be curious, so that you can know how you can achieve something like in the future. But at the moment, just focus on the very basics. But from the next class, we'll introduce the data types. We shall talk about these things in details, like the operators, like some conditional statements in details, and many things. We shall talk about many things as we go on. So anyone with a question up to this point? Basically, I've just finished. Mnanielewa kweli? Let me ask other people. Felician, have you understood up to this point?
Yeah.
All right. And then Maimuna, who has been talking, by the way? Who was asking the question? Was it Maimuna?
No.
Oh, who was it? Okay, JDL, have you understood? Do you have any question?
MZ.
Yes?
I'm called Abby,
Hazard.
but yeah, MZ, but I'm Abby.
Oh, okay, great, wonderful. It's nice to know those students who are, by the way, I like people who are very, very active. By the way, when you are active, you learn more. Make sure that you ask question, you interact, so that I may not cover a lot and then I've left you behind. You don't understand things. Make sure you ask questions in the event you haven't understood. Jadel, do you have anything to ask or say? Or are you good? Or you need time to?
I'm good.
Great, wonderful. And then Daniel?
Yes, for the moment, let me go and digest that. what you taught today. But I think I've learned something today. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Vincent?
I think I'm okay with the loops and the conditional statements.
Yeah. And then NZ, I don't know who is it. NZ,
Yes, I'm good.
how can I? You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the reason I'm trying to mention your names, I want us to be familiar with one another so that we may be confident to ask a question and stuff. So that some people are usually afraid of other people, but make sure that we are very free. We are free to one another so that you may be able to ask questions. Once you're free, you'll be able to ask me questions. So anyone that I haven't mentioned their name, Mwangi, you have something, you have a question or something?
I'm good. It's just now internalizing what we've learned.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any other person that I haven't mentioned their name? Happy.
Yes,
Wonderful.
I'm
Any other
good.
person?
I'm okay.
Great. Wonderful. And Eunice?
I'm okay.
All right. So I'll provide the recording. Make sure that if you haven't understood, and by the way, in programming, you have to practice. You can't say that you've understood how to use the loops and you haven't practiced. You have to practice, to code, to repeat what I've been doing so that you may master. You may master like that concept. So make sure at the end of it, you go and practice. You go and practice so that it can stick. It can stick to your mind. So tomorrow's topic is going to be very, very important. You realize that each topic every day is very, very crucial. So make sure that you don't miss these classes, or if you miss, make sure that you follow the recording because these things are going to build from the previous one. Like for example, the next class will be now the operators, and I'll be more detailed. It's going to be more detailed, and then later we'll be talking about the data structures, data algorithms. So these things depend on one another. So make sure that you don't miss a class, or if you miss, make sure that you follow the recording. So guys, if you don't have much or to say or anything, let me just end the session here. So guys, have a great
Before
yes.
you go,
Mm-hmm.
you said at the end you will show us something. Is it?
Since I've forgotten what was to have a hint.
Is it some people did not were not able to access the LMS.
Oh, sure. But let me show you. So basically, you can first of all, let me share with you the link. It's here. It's here. Let me try to sign up. Okay, let me the link is nametech.com. That's our LMS. So basically, I've partnered with the Eldohub, but now this is our LMS. So let me paste the link there. Where is that? It is here. Let me paste the link. So this is the link that is going to direct you to that LMS. So once you, I don't know if it will be a link. Is it coming as a link? I can see it's a text. I don't know if it's coming as a link. When you click on it, let me try again. I thought it should be a link. Let me copy again. Let me try again. It's not coming as a link. Is it clickable? Is it a link? Let me see. Yeah, it's a link. It's a link. Just click on it. Then it's going to it will direct you to this LMS. Then when you reach there, you can log in. You can click here, my portal. Then you can create an account. You can use create account option here. Then you can create an account where you can add in the username, the email address. You can add in the password, repeat password. Then the profile name. Then here you have to confirm if you are a robot or not. Yeah. Then you can the easiest way you can choose to use the connect with the Google. So this one is going to be much easier. So let me try. So let me try to use this account. So once you've created an account, that course is a paid course. So I've restricted so that not wow, it is having an issue. I think I'll have to check on that. But once you create an account, then I'll send you a link. You'll send me your email. Then when you try to access the course, you'll be able to see it. You'll be able now to access the course because at the moment it's not accessible by everyone. So make sure that you send me your email, and then I create an account to that site. Basically, there are some bugs that I need to fix there, but at the moment, after this class, I'm going to sort it out. So make sure that you go and create an account. Then you'll be able to access the course. The course there. Then I'll be providing the videos, the materials, and everything. By then, when we reach to when we will when we will begin now to do now the data analysis, the data science things, we'll be having those data sets that we'll be using, or maybe the notebooks that I'll be providing the notebooks there, so that we can use the same material to learn. So make sure that you create an account there, and then I'll send you a link. For example, the email that you send me, make sure that it's the same email that I used to sign up, so that you may have access to that course with that email. I don't know if there's a question again on the same or something. Is it clear? Daniel,
Yeah,
was it
yeah,
Daniel?
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, so make sure that you just click on that link, you create an account, then I'll send you the email. You will send me the email, then I'll invite you to that class, so that when you click on it, you can access the course. So I've tried to restrict it so that not everyone will access the course. Yeah. Another thing before I go and look for lunch. Okay, if there's no question, guys, let's meet tomorrow at exactly the same link at exactly 2 p.m. so that we may cover a lot. Basically, we are trying to rush because I want to cover everything with this within the time frame that I was given. These remember, data science is a 4 years program at the college, but college is more into theories and stuff. But here we are more into practical. So we are trying to compress a 4-year program to 4 months. So make sure that you don't miss any class, and we are trying to cover a lot. Like you can see, like today, we've tried to cover a lot, for beginners. So make sure that you also try to go with the same pace. Try to catch up. Make sure that you are committed to these things. Make sure you practice a lot, so that we may be on the same page, so that I may not leave you behind. I'm going to spend more time on Python, but because once you master Python, then the rest is going to be easier, because those packages are going to follow the logics for Python. Something like pandas is a Python framework. So the same implementation on Python is similar to those are packages. Remember now, packages, these are like a library. For example, at the moment, if you want to write 1 + 1, it means that I will have to write a program that can calculate 1 + 1. But now the package or modules, these are libraries that already have the algorithms that solve particular problem. Like for data science, those are for example, something like an NumPy. It's already a package that deals with um, data manipulation. So it's already an algorithm that deals with data manipulation. So they are all Python packages. So I'm trying to spend a lot of time on Python, but once we've mastered Python, then those packages, it might be easier for most of you. So I just want to tell you that keep on practicing. Try to repeat what we've been doing. Try to practice what we've been are doing. Don't say like, for example, to print hello world is much easier. I know it. I know how to print hello world. I can